Have you ever felt like you are swimming against an invisible current that grows stronger with every stroke you take? You push harder, you try more strategies, you exhaust yourself with endless effort. Yet somehow you end up further from where you want to be than when you started. This feeling of constant struggle against life itself is not a personal failing or a sign that you need to try harder. It is actually a clear signal that something fundamental needs to be cut away from your existence. Something so deeply embedded in how you live that you might not even recognize it as the source of your suffering. Ancient Taoist masters understood this principle thousands of years ago. They observed that the greatest enemy of peace and fulfillment is not external circumstances or other people, but something we carry with us everywhere we go. Something that colors every experience and decision we make. This invisible force creates resistance where there should be flow, tension where there could be ease, and exhaustion where there might be effortless action. The wisdom of Taoism points to one specific thing that must be eliminated from your life immediately, without excuses, without gradual reduction, without waiting for the right moment. What the ancient sages discovered was that most human suffering comes from our relentless need to control outcomes, to force life to conform to our expectations, to swim upstream against the natural flow of existence. This controlling mindset is not just a habit or a personality trait that can be managed or moderated. It is a fundamental misunderstanding of how life actually works. And it must be cut out completely if you want to experience the peace and power that comes from living in harmony with the Tao. Think about your last week. How many hours did you spend worrying about things that might happen? How much energy did you waste trying to manage other people's opinions of you? How often did you feel frustrated because reality refused to match the picture in your head of how things should be? This is the controlling mind at work, and it is stealing your life force with every breath you take. The first principle that emerges from Taoist wisdom is the recognition that control is an illusion. We tell ourselves that if we just plan enough, work hard enough, anticipate every possible problem, and manage every variable, we can guarantee the outcomes we want. This belief feels so logical and reasonable that questioning it seems almost absurd. Yet every day brings fresh evidence that life operates according to principles far beyond our ability to manage or predict. Consider how a river flows. It does not struggle against the rocks in its path or fight to move uphill. It finds the natural course, adapts to the terrain, and moves with incredible power precisely because it does not waste energy fighting what is. When obstacles appear, the water flows around them. When the path slopes downward, it accelerates. When it encounters a cliff, it becomes a waterfall. The river teaches us that real power comes not from forcing our will upon the world, but from aligning ourselves with the natural patterns of existence. Your attempts to control outcomes are like trying to push the river uphill. You might succeed for short distances through tremendous effort, but eventually the water will find its natural level, and your energy will be completely depleted in the process. Worse than that, your constant pushing creates turbulence that clouds the water and makes it impossible to see clearly what is actually happening around you. Have you ever noticed how the people who seem most stressed and overwhelmed are often the ones who spend the most time planning and organizing? They have detailed schedules, backup plans for their backup plans, and contingency strategies for every possible scenario. Yet despite all this preparation, they live in constant anxiety about what might go wrong. This is because their entire approach is based on the false premise that life can be controlled if you just try hard enough. Right now, I want you to pause and think about one specific area of your life where you have been trying to force an outcome. Maybe it is a relationship where you keep trying to change the other person. Maybe it is a career goal that you are pursuing through pure willpower despite clear signs that the path is not opening naturally. Maybe it is your attempt to control how your children develop or how your friends behave or how your body responds to your health regimens. Feel that familiar tension in your chest when you think about this area. That tension is your nervous system telling you that you are working against the grain of reality. The second principle that Taoism offers is the power of Wu Wei, often translated as non-action, but more accurately understood as effortless action, or action that flows from deep understanding rather than forced will. Wu Wei does not mean becoming passive or giving up on your goals. It means learning to recognize when you are pushing against the natural current and developing the wisdom to redirect your energy in ways that work with reality rather than against it. Imagine you are trying to open a door, but it will not budge despite your pushing with all your strength. The controlling mind says to push harder. Get more people to help you push. Maybe get some tools to help you push more effectively. The wise mind steps back and notices that the door says pull, not push. Wu Wei is the recognition that sometimes the most powerful action is the complete opposite of what our controlling instincts tell us to do. This principle applies to every area of life. In relationships, instead of trying to change your partner, you learn to change yourself and discover how this naturally influences the entire dynamic. In career pursuits, instead of forcing doors that refuse to open, you develop sensitivity to which opportunities are actually aligned with your natural strengths and the current moment. In health and wellness, instead of declaring war on your body, you learn to listen to its wisdom and work with its natural rhythms and needs. The third insight from Taoist wisdom is that resistance creates more of what you are trying to eliminate. When you fight against something with the energy of rejection and control, you actually strengthen its hold over your life. This is one of the most counterintuitive but powerful principles of Taoist philosophy, and understanding it can completely transform how you approach problems. Think about someone who is desperately trying to fall asleep. The harder they try to force sleep to come, the more elusive it becomes. Their effort to control the natural process of falling asleep actually prevents sleep from occurring naturally. Or consider someone trying to stop thinking about something embarrassing that happened. The more they tell themselves not to think about it, the more the thought dominates their mind. This same principle operates in larger life patterns. If you are struggling financially and approach money from a place of fear and desperate control, you create an energy that actually repels abundance. If you are lonely and try to force connections with others through manipulation or neediness, you push people away. If you hate certain aspects of yourself and try to eliminate them through willpower and self-discipline, you often end up strengthening exactly the patterns you want to change. The Taoist approach is radically different. Instead of fighting what you do not want, you learn to cultivate what you do want through gentle, consistent attention. Instead of declaring war on your problems, you become curious about what they might be teaching you. Instead of forcing change through effort and control, you create conditions that allow natural transformation to occur. Let me share a story that illustrates this principle. A student once came to a Taoist master complaining about his anger. He had tried everything to control his temper, meditation, breathing exercises, positive thinking, but nothing worked. The master told him to spend 1 week doing nothing but observing his anger without trying to change it or judge it. Just watch it arise. Notice what triggered it. Feel how it moved through his body and see how it naturally dissolved when he stopped feeding it with resistance. The student was skeptical but agreed to try. By the end of the week, he discovered something remarkable. His anger was not actually the problem. His anger was a natural response to feeling powerless and unheard in certain situations. When he stopped fighting the anger and started listening to what it was telling him about his needs and boundaries, he naturally began to address the real issues underneath. The anger transformed not because he controlled it, but because he stopped trying to control it and started working with the intelligence it contained. This brings us to the fourth principle, which is that every challenge in your life contains information about the next step in your evolution. The things you most want to control or eliminate are often pointing toward exactly what you need to develop or understand more deeply. Your financial struggles might be teaching you about your relationship with abundance and self-worth. Your relationship conflicts might be showing you patterns of communication and intimacy that need attention. Your health issues might be calling you to develop a more loving relationship with your body and its needs. When you approach life from a place of curiosity rather than control, you begin to see that everything is actually working for your highest good, even when it does not feel that way in the moment. This does not mean becoming passive or accepting harmful situations. It means developing the wisdom to distinguish between what you can actually influence and what you need to accept, and learning to direct your energy toward what is actually within your power to change. Most people spend 90% of their energy trying to control the 10% of life that is actually outside their influence, while neglecting the 10% that is completely within their power to transform. You cannot control whether other people like you, but you can control whether you like yourself. You cannot control what opportunities appear in your life, but you can control how you prepare yourself to recognize and receive them. You cannot control how long you live, but you can control how fully you live each day you are given. The fifth teaching from Taoist wisdom is that true strength comes from flexibility, not rigidity. Bamboo survives storms that topple mighty oak trees because it bends without breaking. Water carves through solid rock not through force, but through patient, persistent flow. The most powerful people are often those who appear most gentle because they have learned to work with natural forces rather than against them. In your daily life, this means learning to hold your plans lightly. Yes, have goals and take action toward them, but remain open to how they might unfold differently than you imagined. Often the path that opens naturally leads to something even better than what you originally thought you wanted, but only if you are flexible enough to recognize and follow it. This principle also applies to your relationship with yourself. Instead of trying to force yourself into some ideal version of who you think you should be, learn to work with your natural temperament and rhythms. If you are naturally introverted, stop trying to force yourself to be social in ways that drain your energy. If you are a morning person, stop scheduling important activities for late at night. If you learn better through hands-on experience than reading, stop forcing yourself through endless books and courses. The path of least resistance is not about taking the easy way out or avoiding challenges. It is about recognizing that life has a natural intelligence that can guide you toward your highest potential if you learn to listen to it and work with it rather than against it. This requires developing sensitivity to subtle signals and trusting your intuitive knowing, even when it contradicts what your logical mind thinks should happen. Right now, as you listen to these words, there is probably something arising in your awareness about an area of your life where you have been pushing too hard or holding on too tightly. Maybe it is a relationship that you have been trying to force into a certain shape. Maybe it is a project at work where you have been struggling against obstacles instead of finding a more natural approach. Maybe it is some aspect of your personal development where you have been trying to force change through willpower and discipline. The invitation from Taoism is not to completely abandon your goals or stop taking action. The invitation is to examine the energy behind your actions. Are you moving from a place of trust and alignment, or from a place of fear and control? Are you flowing with the current of your life, or swimming exhaustingly against it? Are you working with your natural strengths and the opportunities that present themselves, or forcing yourself down paths that feel resistant and difficult? Have you ever experienced a period in your life when things seemed to flow effortlessly? When the right people appeared at the right time, when opportunities opened, naturally, when solutions emerged without struggle? Most people have had at least brief tastes of this kind of experience. What was different during those times? Usually you were not trying so hard to make things happen. You were more present, more open, more responsive to what was actually occurring rather than attached to what you thought should be occurring. This is what life feels like when you stop trying to control it and start learning to dance with it instead. This does not mean you become passive or stop setting intentions. It means you learn to distinguish between inspired action and forced action, between natural effort and struggle, between persistence and stubbornness. The sixth insight from Taoist philosophy is that timing is everything, and forcing the wrong action at the wrong time creates unnecessary suffering. A farmer does not plant seeds in frozen ground or harvest crops before they are ripe. There are natural seasons for different activities, and working in harmony with these rhythms multiplies the effectiveness of your efforts while dramatically reducing stress and strain. In your personal life, this means learning to recognize when it is time to act and when it is time to wait. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is nothing at all. Sometimes the situation needs more time to develop, or you need to gain more clarity, or other people need to come to their own realizations before your action will be effective. This is especially important in relationships. You cannot force someone to be ready for deeper intimacy, to change patterns that no longer serve them, or to see things from your perspective. Trying to do so usually pushes them in the opposite direction. But when you focus on your own growth and wait for the right moment to share your insights or make requests, your influence becomes much more powerful because it is no longer coming from a place of attachment to specific outcomes. The same principle applies to career moves, investment decisions, major life changes, and even daily choices about how to spend your time and energy. There is a natural rhythm to life, and when you attune yourself to this rhythm, you find that you accomplish more with less effort, while experiencing much greater satisfaction and peace. Consider how many times you have forced a decision or action because you felt like you should know what to do right now, only to discover later that waiting a little longer would have revealed a much better option. Your controlling mind hates uncertainty and wants to eliminate it as quickly as possible, even if it means making premature or misguided choices. Your wise mind understands that uncertainty often contains valuable information and that the best decisions emerge from patience and careful attention to the full situation. The seventh principle teaches us that most of what we think we need to control is actually none of our business. Other people's opinions, the weather, economic conditions, political events, aging, and countless other factors that influence our lives are completely outside our sphere of control. Yet most people spend enormous amounts of mental and emotional energy trying to manage these unmanageable aspects of reality. What if you decided to stop trying to control anything except your own thoughts, emotions, and actions? What if you focused all of your attention on becoming the kind of person who can respond skillfully to whatever life presents, rather than trying to manipulate life to present only what you prefer? This shift in focus transforms everything because it directs your energy toward what you can actually influence while freeing you from the exhausting and futile attempt to control what you cannot. This does not mean becoming indifferent to external circumstances or stopping your efforts to create positive change in the world. It means recognizing that your power to influence external circumstances comes through the quality of your internal state and the authenticity of your actions, not through force, manipulation, or attachment to specific outcomes. When you are truly centered in yourself, when you are responding to life from a place of clarity and presence, rather than reactivity and fear, you naturally become more effective in all areas of your life. People trust you more because you are not trying to get something from them. Opportunities appear more readily because you are available to recognize them. Problems get solved more easily because you are approaching them with creativity and wisdom rather than anxiety and desperation. Have you ever noticed how some people seem to have an almost magical ability to influence situations and people without appearing to try very hard? They speak and others listen. They make suggestions that get implemented. They ask for help and receive it. This is not because they have learned advanced manipulation techniques. It is because they have learned to operate from a place of inner authority and authentic presence that naturally commands respect and cooperation. This kind of influence cannot be faked or manufactured through effort. It emerges naturally when you stop trying to control how others perceive you and focus instead on becoming genuinely worthy of their respect and trust. It develops when you stop trying to get your needs met through indirect manipulation and learn to express them directly and honestly. It grows when you stop trying to avoid uncomfortable emotions and develop the capacity to remain centered and responsive, even in difficult situations. The eighth teaching from Taoist wisdom is that resistance creates suffering, and acceptance creates space for natural solutions to emerge. This is perhaps the most challenging principle for most people to understand because it seems to contradict everything our culture teaches about problem solving and goal achievement. We are taught that if something is wrong, we should fight against it. If we want something different, we should force change to happen through effort and determination. But Taoism teaches that acceptance is not passive resignation. Acceptance is clear, seeing that allows you to work with reality as it actually is rather than wasting energy, fighting against what has already happened or demanding that people and situations be different than they are. From this place of clear seeing, wise action naturally emerges. Imagine you are lost in a forest. The controlling approach would be to pick a direction and walk forcefully toward what you think is the way out, regardless of the terrain or the signals from your environment. The accepting approach would be to stop, breathe, get oriented, really look at your surroundings, and then choose your next steps based on actual information rather than panic and wishful thinking. In your personal life, this might mean accepting that your teenager is going through a difficult phase instead of constantly fighting with them about it, which then allows you to respond with patience and wisdom rather than reactivity and control. It might mean accepting that your business is facing challenges instead of denying or minimizing them, which then allows you to make clear-headed decisions about how to adapt. It might mean accepting that your body is aging instead of fighting it with desperate measures, which then allows you to develop a health approach that actually supports your well-being. Acceptance does not mean you stop caring or stop taking action. Acceptance means you stop wasting energy on resistance and start directing that same energy toward creative responses that work with the situation as it actually exists. This shift in approach often leads to solutions that would never have occurred to the controlling mind because they require a level of flexibility and creativity that resistance makes impossible. The ninth insight is that your need to control comes from a fundamental misunderstanding about your place in the larger web of existence. Most people live with an unconscious assumption that they are separate from life, that life is something happening to them that they must manage and defend against. This assumption creates a constant state of vigilance and effort because you feel like you are fighting for survival in a hostile environment. But Taoist wisdom teaches that you are not separate from life. You are life expressing itself in this particular form, in this particular moment, through this particular set of circumstances. The same intelligence that grows your hair and beats your heart is also orchestrating the events and relationships and opportunities that appear in your experience. When you really understand this, the need to control begins to dissolve naturally because you realize you are being guided by a wisdom far greater than your personal thinking mind. This does not mean becoming passive or abandoning personal responsibility. It means learning to distinguish between your role and the role of the larger intelligence that guides all natural processes. Your role is to listen deeply, to prepare yourself to receive guidance, to take inspired action when it arises, and to trust the process even when you cannot see the whole picture. The universe's role is everything else. When you truly integrate this understanding, life becomes much more like a dance and much less like a battle. You learn to sense the rhythms and patterns around you and to move in harmony with them rather than imposing your own agenda on every situation. You discover that this approach is not only more peaceful, but actually more effective, because you are working with the natural currents of energy rather than against them. The 10th and final principle is that the path of letting go is not a one-time decision, but a daily practice of choosing trust over control, flow over force, presence over future projection. Every day presents new opportunities to notice where you are gripping too tightly and to practice releasing what is not yours to manage. Every interaction offers a chance to respond from love rather than fear, from wisdom rather than reactivity. This practice requires patience with yourself because the controlling mind is deeply ingrained and does not disappear overnight. You will catch yourself falling back into old patterns of trying to manage outcomes, manipulate people, or force solutions through willpower. Instead of judging yourself for this, you can simply notice it, smile at the familiar tendency of the mind to want control, and gently redirect your attention to what is actually within your power to influence. The goal is not to become perfect at non-controlling, but to develop increasing sensitivity to the difference between aligned action and forced action, between trust and attachment, between responding and reacting. Over time, this sensitivity becomes more refined, and you find yourself naturally choosing the path of greater ease and effectiveness because you can feel the difference in your body and nervous system. Right now, as this exploration comes to an end, you might be noticing areas of your life where you have been swimming against the current without even realizing it. You might be feeling both excited about the possibility of greater ease and slightly anxious about what it would mean to truly let go of control in certain situations. Both of these responses are completely natural and part of the process of integrating wisdom that challenges fundamental assumptions about how life works. The invitation is not to suddenly drop all planning and effort and become completely passive. The invitation is to begin experimenting with small acts of letting go and noticing how it feels in your body when you release the need to control specific outcomes. Try holding your plans more lightly for one day and see what happens. Try approaching one difficult conversation from a place of curiosity rather than agenda and notice how it shifts the dynamic. Try trusting that the solution to one current problem might emerge naturally if you stop forcing it and create some space for unexpected possibilities. These small experiments will give you direct experience of what Taoist sages have been pointing to for thousands of years. When you align yourself with the natural flow of existence rather than fighting against it, life becomes both easier and more meaningful. You find yourself accomplishing what truly matters with less stress and more joy. You discover resources within yourself that were hidden by the tension and effort of constant controlling. You begin to trust the intelligence that guides all natural processes and to experience yourself as part of something much larger and more wonderful than your individual will. If these words have resonated with something deep inside you, if you recognize yourself in the description of swimming against invisible currents and are ready to explore what it might feel like to flow with life instead of against it, then take a moment right now to show your appreciation by hitting that like button. Your engagement helps this wisdom reach others who are also ready to discover the peace and power that comes from letting go of the need to control everything. And if you are serious about developing the practical skills of living in harmony with Taoist principles, if you want to join a community of people who are committed to choosing trust over control and presence over anxiety, then subscribe to this channel right now. Each week, you will receive insights and practices that can help you develop the art of effortless action and the wisdom of natural timing. You will learn how to distinguish between what is yours to change and what is yours to accept, how to respond to challenges from a place of strength rather than reactivity, and how to create the conditions that allow your deepest potential to unfold naturally. Subscribe now and become part of a journey toward greater wisdom, peace, and authentic power.